Fantastic. So
Screen now.
Okay. So before we start, Claudia, allow me to do a quick introduction about you to everyone who's joined us. And I'd like to first of all start with thanking everyone who has taken the time to join us on this webinar today. This is a very important topic that we think for small business owners, especially when you are having an intent to really create a sustainable long haul business, right? So brand identity owners like yourself to be successful online, and that's why we are in a partnership with Claudia, continuously bringing a lot of content and to you. I will leave it at that and get Claudia to start with her presentation. And yeah, there you go, Claudia.
Thank you, Uma. Yes, actually, it was interesting. I was reading an article from Alibaba.com this week, basically talking about the Indian market from an e-commerce perspective has accelerated by a decade. And they talked about the amazing environment in terms of, entrepreneurs and digital, and, India having such a massive growth curve, coming in the future. So it's such an exciting space for, the Asian market, and with the acceleration, because of, obviously instances last year. But thank you, Uma, very much, and welcome everybody. So today's session is on fast tracking your brand for online growth. I'm really looking forward to taking you through this session today. I've tried to make it really practical so that you can take away some insights as well as some actions that you can really implement in your business as of tomorrow. So just to introduce myself, as Uma said, I am Claudia North, co-founder of We're Small Business. I'm a certified practicing marketer and I have over 25 years experience really specialising in e-commerce marketing strategy for small businesses. I've worked with businesses not only in Australia, but also across Asia and North America, as well as founding my own e-commerce businesses. So we founded We're Small Business to make expert e-commerce marketing advice practical and affordable, specifically for small businesses. So before we get started today, it would be great if you guys could answer a poll that we've put together. This just gives me a better understanding of where our audience today is at in regards to their branding for growth. So Uma, have you got the poll available there?
Yes, I do. I'm just going to put the poll up right now so everyone can give us that. All right, so this is the first, right, okay, let's launch the poll.
Thank you. So look, we'll just take a few moments, but if you could select as many of these as you need to, like which of the following do you feel that you really have clearly defined and documented? So these are all elements of branding, particularly for online growth. So just have a think through which ones of these you feel really comfortable that you know exactly what they are for your business. Okay, just checking, Naina, you cannot hear me properly. I'll just try my volume 1 second.
Yeah. All right, you can choose more than one answer, of course, because it is a multiple choice question, and we'd like to know, what exactly your position is with respect to defining your brand. Yeah, so we seem to have some clear winners here, Claudia, of what they have.
If you can share those with me.
Okay, so you're not able to share, see that. Okay, let me just get that one clicked off to you.
Sorry, no.
Okay, but why don't I just quickly share the results with you, and then I can, because I'll have to end it otherwise. At this point in time, we don't have everyone answering yet, so I would really request everyone to answer. We still have about a few people yet to answer, but at this point in time, most of you say that you actually have your target audiences well defined. That's the first thing. Vision statement is the next one. About 70% have said they have the vision statement defined. Following that is company's core values. All these three are like in the range of 80%, 70%, and almost 60%. And then less than 50% is unique selling proposition, mission statement, and the brand archetype. And tone of voice, no one's actually chosen tone of voice. So yeah.
Oh, that's really helpful. That's really
I'm just going to keep it on for like 5 more seconds in case anyone who's not answered would like to answer. Please do give us your response, because it is very, very useful for us to understand the need gaps, and then Claudia can help address that. So
yes, absolutely. Okay, so
we'll just end the poll and share it with you.
I just had a chat from Nina. She said she's sorry she's not able to hear me clearly. Your voice keeps coming and going. Can you hear me clearly, Uma?
Yes, absolutely, I can.
Okay.
So Nina, you might just want to check. Yeah, I'm just sharing the poll results so everyone can see what the results are looking like. Yeah, all right, and then we'll.
Well, that's awesome. Good job, audience. A lot of small businesses that I work with don't have even 50% of these. So I'm really pleased to hear that you've spent the time to invest in your brand. Thank you, Uma.
No problem.
Okay, fantastic. So are you happy, Uma, for us to move on now? Okay. Just
Let's go ahead. Let's go ahead.
Thanks, Uma. Okay, fantastic. So just to give you guys a heads up in terms of the agenda for our masterclass today. So first of all, we're going to talk about why branding for growth is critical to your business online. Then we're going to touch on the key brand fundamentals or elements of brand that are important for online growth. And then finally, I would like you to be able to apply some of these key brand fundamentals to grow your business online. Okay. Sorry, just checking about the hearing. Okay, so branding for online growth is really critical because it's about the first building block of our pillars for our foundations for e-commerce growth. So for those that joined my masterclass in December, which I was talking about a little bit earlier today on the must-have e-commerce growth framework for e-commerce growth, you might remember, anybody that joined that, you might remember this slide. But basically what we talked about here is about how the foundations are extremely important when growing your online business. As just like a house, they support the future growth of your business. So with your home, if you're going to put on a second story, if you don't have the foundations solid, then that can impact the rest of your building growth. And it's really just the same for e-commerce. So we basically touched on these 8 foundations that lay your foundations for e-commerce growth as well as scale. So you can see what each of them are here, and you can see that the first one is branding for growth. So whether you're a new store owner or you have an established store, the same foundations that you can see here apply. Basically, we've used this framework over many years with startups through to established small businesses. So whether they're beginners or they're turning over millions of dollars annually online. So it's not only simplified digital marketing for these businesses, but it's provided them consistent growth over time. So the longer businesses have actually committed to implementing these foundations, the more their revenue has gone to new levels over time. So for today, we're really going to focus on our very first foundation block, which is branding for growth. So did you know that it takes about 50 milliseconds for people to form an opinion about your digital brand? So today in digital, you don't get a second chance to create a first impression, and particularly when customers can find a new brand that's a competitor just one click away. So when we talk about branding for growth, basically what we're referring to is your visual design, your tone of voice, and messaging being consistent across all digital touch points. So that basically means your website, your social platforms, emails, and other digital applications. So you can see here that there's an example of an Australian skincare company that's very successful here. And basically their visual design is really consistent across, you can see their website, their YouTube channel, their Facebook page, and their Instagram. So people really appreciate when a business has a brand as well as a professional brand. We've got the stats to prove that. So basically, consistent presentation of branding across digital assets has seen to increase revenue by 33%. Okay, so you might be asking, how do we actually get consistency of our brand across digital? So basically, to achieve this, you need to clearly define the basics of the brand fundamentals. And we've developed what I call our cheat sheet for branding for growth online. And they include 7 fundamentals. So the first one, as per our poll list, is your vision statement, your mission statement, your company core values, your unique selling proposition or your USP, you may have heard it called, your target audiences, your brand archetype, and finally, your tone of voice. So as we're going to unpack each of these elements today, I would suggest if you have a notepad or your computer there, just note down the elements that you feel that you can do some further work on past this session today. We're going to do a really practical session. We're going to do a practical session for each of these elements. So if you find that there's one of them or a couple of them that you would definitely like to do some further work on, good news is that Shopmatic will put this recorded session onto their YouTube channel. So you can go back and visit the section that's relevant for you because there'll be some things there that are going to help you fast track your brand for growth. Okay, so let's kick off with our first brand fundamental, which is your vision statement. So what exactly is a vision statement? Now, having worked with lots of small businesses, I know that vision, mission can be a bit grey, but basically your vision statement describes what your business desires to achieve over the long term. So if you think about the next 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, potentially and beyond, depending what stage you're at in your business, it's where do you see your business in the future? So basically your vision should be aspirational. So when I say that, it's what is your desired end state from your business actually being in operation? So if you take a moment to think, if you achieved everything you ever wanted to achieve in your business, what would the outcome or the desired end state look like? So as this session is talking about fast tracking your branding for growth, we're going to look at a process to do this for your vision statement. So when you, if you want to review your existing vision or actually put one together because you don't really feel like you've got it clear, then what I would recommend is that you actually block out maybe a half a day to give time to your business to actually think about this. So prior to doing this with having your vision statement session, make sure that you have all these questions that we're about to go through written down and that you have a notepad and a pen. I would suggest that you actually choose a day when you find you're more inspired. So for me, it's definitely a Wednesday or a Thursday because I find that, you know, Monday, Tuesday, I'm really busy, you know, getting on top of emails and things that are going on in the business. And towards the end of the week, when I'm feeling a little bit more under control, I've got time to breathe. This is when, you know, I can do a lot more of my creative thinking. So I also suggest that you do this session in a creative space. So don't sit down at your desk where you usually work or your store, wherever that happens to be. Go somewhere that inspires you. So whether that's a coffee shop, whether that's outdoors, whether that's in your living room in your favorite chair, it's just really important that you don't sit in your regular workspace. Okay, so let's jump into these questions. So the first step in this process is thinking about projecting 3 to 5 years into your future. So some of the questions that you should think about here is imagine a future world where your desired end state exists. So this world is where your vision statement actually lives. Next is, what would you like that world to look like? And what would success entail for you? Would you be in different geographic areas? Would your products or services have evolved from where they are today? So you really want to take some time to feel comfortable with what your desired end state really looks like. Okay, your second question is to determine your purpose and position as a brand. So why does your organisation exist? And then you also want to think about, how do you actually do things differently or better or more efficiently than your competitors? So the third question in defining your vision statement is to describe what success looks like in your business. And when you do this, we want to be really succinct and clear with your definition and what really sets you apart. And then our fourth question is to, which is really helpful, is to reference well-known brands or to create an analogy. So basically referencing brands that have, real meaning helps us interpret what we want from our vision statement and how we're going to be inspired by that. So what I've actually done is to help you along, I've prepared some examples of some global brands that hopefully you know some or all of them. And this is to help you articulate your vision statement. So basically we've got Disney. So their vision is to make people happy. I love it. It's really clear and it's really, really simple. Ikea is to create better everyday life for the many people. Amazon is to be Earth's most customer-centric company, where customers can find and discover anything they might want to buy online. And then finally, Tesla is to create the most compelling car company of the 21st century by driving the world's transition to electric vehicles. So it can be really challenging as a small business owner to take time out of your busy schedule to review your existing vision statement or to spend some time to develop your vision statement. However, reconnecting with your cause will really give you renewed inspiration. So once you've actually defined your vision statement, it's also really helpful for your staff and your suppliers, but more importantly, your customers, and for them to have clarity on your vision. What we found is that customers really connect with brands that have meaning over the long term. So your investment in time to crystallize what your vision statement is will really lay the foundations for your long-term growth. And customers are going to connect with your vision and your purpose, and they're going to form an authentic relationship with you long into the future. So secondly, so I know some of you have your mission statement documented. Now, trust me, as a marketer, if you're asking what's the difference between a vision and a mission, I hear you. It's quite a nuance, but I really want to spell it out for you today because I think it's really important for you to have both articulated. So in terms of how a mission statement is different from a vision statement. So as we talked about, the vision statement focuses on a business's long-term future and answers the question, where are we going and what is our desired end state for all of our efforts into our business? So our mission statement actually focuses on our business's current state, so more of a short-term focus, and we want to look at who are we and why do we exist? So like we did for our vision statement development, we've also got 4 questions for our mission statement. So if you decide that you're going to take some time out to invest in your branding for growth, if you're going to block out some time for your vision statement, it just makes a whole lot of sense to work through your mission statement as well. So it'd be great to take some time where you can work on both of these. So in terms of our mission statement questions, so the first one is, what do we do? Now, this is a really simple question, but often if you talk to small business owners and go, what is it that you do? They find it really hard to articulate exactly what they do. And I'm a small business owner, and when somebody asks me, I also find it quite tricky to be really succinct in terms of exactly what do we do. So you just need to say it really simply. What product or service does your business produce or provide? And just get down the basics and don't have any fluff. The second question is, whom do we serve? So a well-crafted mission statement focuses your business both on definitely your target audience, but it also helps your team understand whom you serve. So there's a lot of value there in terms of having it really clear on who your target audiences are. Our third question is, how do we serve them? So this is a description of how your business generally operates. So it usually means incorporating like one or more of your core values. So for example, it might be, encouraging innovation or creativity. It might be, sustainability for a cleaner future. So if you know what your values are, you can utilize those in how you use those values to actually serve your customers. And finally, what value are we really bringing? So this question is about covering off how you're really different from your competition and why are you unique? Okay, so again, we're going to use our earlier examples. So here is the brands that we looked at their vision. How did their vision actually extend into their mission statements? So utilizing those questions that we just went through in our process, our development process, we're looking at the what, the whom, the how, and the value for a couple of our global brands. So if we apply that process to Disney, so what do? They entertain, they inform, and they inspire. Whom do they serve? So people around the globe. How do they serve them? Through the power of unparalleled storytelling. And then what value are they really bringing? So they reflect iconic brands, they have creative minds, and they use innovative technology. So you can see here how they've really utilized the mission statement framework to define exactly what their mission is. Secondly, we've got Ikea. So what do? So they offer a wide range of home furnishing products. Whom do they serve? As many people as possible. And how do they serve them? They serve them by having really low prices. And then finally, what value do they bring that's unique, from their competitors? So their home furnishings are really well defined, they're extremely functional, and they're absolutely affordable. So now we're going to move on to our company core values. And I was really thrilled to see that a large percentage of our audiences today have their core values identified. So much so that 71% of consumers actually prefer buying from companies these days that share their values. And even more so with the millennials coming through, 83% of them stress the importance of having a personal value alignment with companies. And they actually exercise their conviction when choosing to purchase, from a brand. So this particular research that I looked at found that consumers on a whole are really becoming more politically and socially conscious, and they're buying products from businesses that they adhere to their political and social beliefs. So you can see here why, with these statistics, that for small businesses that are looking to attract new customers, to retain existing customers, and basically generally grow their business, how important brand values have become for the consumers of today. So I pose the question to the audience, do you really know exactly what your company core values are? So for the theme today, we are fast tracking your process to branding for growth. So what we're going to go through here is a fast track process for your brand, your company core values. So before you sit down to do this activity, What I would suggest is if you just jump onto Google and do a search for company core values, if you select the images tab, you'll see a whole lot of resources that have pages like this one on the right-hand side of company core values. Pick one, you'll probably find this one. If not this one, just grab another one and print that off before you actually do your value session. Now, again, if you're going to commit some time to really invest in your brand for online growth, then doing this at the same time as you do your mission, your vision and your values would certainly be a really effective way to spend your time to develop your brand for growth. So for this session, I would suggest that you print off this a core values sheet. Not only that, to have a highlighter and a pen with you. So in short, you'd need probably about 30 to 60 minutes for this process. As I mentioned, bring your highlighter along. When you do this process, it's really good to sit in a quiet place. So as I mentioned before, your creative space for your mission or your values is exactly where you want to be. And then you close your eyes, and imagine where your business will be in 5 years. So you've probably just done this for your vision statement. If you're going to do this in one session, get back into that zone, imagine where you'll be, where your business is going to be in 5 years. But rather than thinking about the desired end state, what we want to think about is visualizing the environment, like you going to work, people working there, you've got your employees collaborating. What does the culture feel like for you? And once you actually get a sense of what that environment really feels like, open up your eyes and then grab your value sheet, start at the top of them, and then just start to highlight when you're going through the list, every single word you go through. If it's resonating with your heart, highlight it. If not, move on and keep going. Don't worry if you highlight half the page, just anything that's really connecting with that environment, that you see your business being, just highlight it. So once you get through that process, basically what we want to do is group any of those words that are similar into buckets. So you'll find that, you might have 10 words that go into one bucket and a couple into another. You will definitely have similarities. So we want to start to bucket each of those values. So once you've actually bucketed your values, the next step is to think hard about each of those buckets. Which value really, really resonates with you out of that group? So if you had to just pick one, which word would it be? So after you do that, the final step would actually be for each of those final words, those final values that you've picked from each of your buckets, come up with a definition about how that value specifically applies for your business. So, lots of people can have the word, passion, for example, but how does that really apply to your business? Is it passion in the production channel? Is it passion for your customers? How does that apply? So this is where you really get to customize how that value is integrated in your business. So that's the process that you go through, but just some tips on identifying these values. First of all, I would say really keep them tight. So don't double up on them. Be really, really specific. Ideally, I would suggest anywhere between 3 and 6 core values. You don't want any more and you don't want any less than 3. And then finally, when you think about the values of your brand, if you're a solopreneur, you'll potentially find that a lot of your personal values overlap with your business values. When you're thinking about your business, think about the values that you want your business to espouse, and they will definitely be close to your personal values. But think about your staff, think about your customers when you're actually going through this process. Okay, so next we're going to look at your USP or your unique selling proposition. So for those of you that have not heard of this term before, basically your unique selling proposition is one of the fundamental components of a company's existence. So it's basically what makes your business unique and valuable to your target market. So your USP should answer the question, How does your business's products or services benefit your clients better than anybody else? So to fast track this process as well, we have a little 6-step process that we're going to go through. So you can see here the first one is describe your target audience. So before you're even starting your marketing services, you really need to know who you're planning on targeting. And so in this step, you want to be as specific as possible. Your second step is to explain the problem that you solve. So from your prospective client's perspective, what is the individual need they face that your business can solve for them? Our third step is to list the biggest distinctive benefits. So in this section, you can highlight maybe 3 to 5 of the biggest benefits that a client actually gets from choosing to work with you rather than any other competitor. So what really sets you apart from your competition? So step 4 then is to define your promise. So a big part of a successful unique selling proposition is to have a promise for your clients. And sometimes this might just be implied, but it's really important that you spell this out for yourself and your team. So write down the promise that you make to your clients in this step. So the last two, step 5 is about combining everything that you've put together. So your target audience, what problem do you solve, what are your benefits, and what do you promise? And we want to combine and rework all of this. So basically take all the information that you've listed and put it into a paragraph. So there should be some recurring ideas and thoughts ideally. So what you want to do is to start merging the statements and rewriting it in a flow that really makes sense. And then step 6 is you want to cut down this paragraph. So you want to make it really simple and just condense it into one paragraph that is, or one sentence that is specific and as simple as possible. So this is actually a template that we've developed that can help you once you get to step 5 and 6, which is doing your reworking and cutting down. So basically the flow looks something like, so we've got blank. So our blank, so our products or services help our target audience who need us because of whatever their pain points are. And they're going to benefit because of what reason and because we're different to our competitors. So just to take this a step further, this is just an example that I put together for With Small Business. So for step 5, which was sort of condensing it into a paragraph, we put together that With Small Business, so our affordable e-commerce marketing advice platform helps small businesses who want to grow sustainably through e-commerce by helping them navigate the digital maze and simplifying e-commerce marketing, unlike the traditional agencies and marketing consultancy models. So there's a lot of information in there. So to cut that down, what we summarized it as was With Small Businesses e-commerce marketing advice platform is the only affordable subscription-based service that navigates and simplifies the digital maze for small businesses to grow sustainably. So when you're working through this process, if this is on your to-do list, jump back to the YouTube recording of this video and just write down the template and then just work on those sentences to really refine exactly what your USP is. Okay, so moving on to our 5th fundamental of branding. We're going to look at how to define our target market. So a target market is basically a specific or defined segment of consumers that a company plans to serve with their products or services. So identifying your target market is really an essential step in the development of your products and your services and the marketing that you're going to do to promote those products or services. Now, there's lots of factors that you can consider when identifying your target market. So I'm going to go through these. There's 5 different factors. Within those factors, there's quite a few variables. Don't be overwhelmed. I just want to give all of you lots to think about, and all you need to pick is the ones that are really relevant for your target market. So our first one, which is a pretty simple one, is demographics. So when we talk about factors about our target markets, demographics, we cover, their age, their gender, maybe their marital status, number of children, occupation, annual income, education level, etc. Our second factor for segmenting our target market is geographics. So basically, marketing geographics involve the dividing of consumers into smaller, sort of manageable segments based on geographic location. So this can include things such as climate, the size of the region, is the area urban, is it more rural, are we talking domestic markets, are we talking international? So they're the things that you can consider from a geographic factor perspective. Now, sociographics is quite a new one, and you may or may not have heard about this, but sociographics refers to variables that really fine-tune our understanding of customers to establish what we call like high relevant marketing. So therefore, we can optimize our communication with them. And this has really, really grown with the automation of marketing, where you can do really niche segments based on events or based on triggers, and specifically, talk to somebody with customized communications. So this could be, the readiness of people to buy at a particular stage in the customer journey. What is their decision-making unit like to decide to purchase a product in your space? It could be family life cycle, it could be language, etc. So our next factor is behavioural. So this is just basically about, how loyal are people to a brand in your category. So we could be talking about a particular car brand where, somebody always buys the same car brand and they're very loyal. We could be talking about toothpaste, for example, where people are going to just pick the one that's on sale, for example. Other behavioural factors, what is their expectations of the benefit of the product? So are they really high, and therefore how are they going to respond to that? As well as usage behaviour. So if they buy a expensive skincare brand, is that something that they use twice a day, or because it's expensive, do they only use it once a week, for example? So this is where we look at, how people behave within their demographics and their sociographics in relation to, buying and utilising a product. So our final factor is psychographics, and this is attitudes, interests, opinions, etc. And, with the introduction of things like Facebook and Google advertising, rather than looking at demographics, we're able to start to segment our audiences on interests. So we might have a 80-year-old man interested in the same product or service that we have a mum with 3 children, and it's less about the demographics, but it's more about the interests, and the interests might be sustainability, the environment, things like that. That is really their priority when they make choices about, product or service purchasing. So I know there was a lot to digest there, but I wanted to give you a full range of different things that you can consider, because sometimes demographics isn't enough. Sometimes all of it is too much, and maybe it's just an interest that really captures your target audience. But at least that gives you a lot to think about in terms of how to define, the key interests or psychographics, etc., for your target audiences. So this is a pretty basic table, and again, feel free to go back to the recording for this. But I wanted to create a table where you can use this process to think about how to specifically define your target audiences. So you can see in the second column we have demographics, and then we're going into, and just with this, I'd suggest that you have at least 3 different audiences. Sometimes I've found small business owners really feel they know exactly who their end consumer is. And then they've run very broad Facebook or Google advertising and actually find a niche that they didn't even think about. So what we want to do is have sort of broad audiences that we can, talk to, and then really narrow down when we find that we're getting the connection with our audiences. So we've definitely got obviously demographics there because that's easy for us to think about in terms of identifying our audiences, and psychographics. The other factors we've defined as, barriers to buy, for your audiences to buy, what are their challenges or pain points? What's your solution to those pain points? And then what's exactly your offering, and also your key messaging to specifically talk about your products to solve a particular niche's product. You might have the same products for all of your niches, but it's just about language and nuances in your communication that's going to just connect with these different audiences. Okay, so moving on, we're now on to number 6, our second last one, which is brand archetypes. Now, this may be a term that you have not heard of before, and that wouldn't surprise me. I'm a marketer, and it took me a number of years in my career to come across this. And you might be wondering, is it really necessary for me to work through this one? I've included it in the Fastrack process because working through this exercise will really humanize your brand. I found that when I did this for my previous businesses and with small business, it really inspired me to go deeper into what we really stand for. Okay, so what are brand archetypes? So basically they're a universally familiar character that transcends time, place, culture, gender, and age. And they really help to anchor your brand against something iconic and something that consumers can relate to. Brand archetypes, they're a really good tool to help differentiate your brand. And they also give your brand depth of personality and are aspirational. Now, one moment, I've got a hand up here. Oh, yes. Jagadish, he's got his hand up. If you just want to pop something into the chat, I'm happy to respond to that.
Yeah, just quick one there. So anyone who has a question for Claudia, can we just request you to put it in the Q&A? We are certainly keeping some time at the end of the session to ensure we have a conversation addressing all of the Q&As. Will that be okay, Claudia?
Yes, of course, of course.
Yes, okay, all right. So let's just, if you all can just put in your queries in Q&A, please. Thank you.
Thanks, Uma. Okay, so I highly recommend that you do this exercise. It's really fast and it will fast track your brand archetype in minutes. So it's a really cool quiz by a company called Brand Chemistry that can help you determine the right fit for your brand and which of the 12 archetypes is the right fit for you. And there's 9 questions and it's multiple choice. So we're going to have a little bit of fun here. One moment. Okay, so I've got the brand archetypes website up. Can everybody see that? Can you see that, Uma?
Yes, you can, yeah.
Oh, great. Okay, so we're just going to run through this. So there's 9 questions. So what characteristic does your organisation value most in its employees? So we're just going to have a little bit of a guess here. So let's say fun. Our organisation helps people to make the world better. And if our organisation was a person, it would be a miracle worker. Which of the following mottos best represent your organisation? Oh, like this one where there's a will, there's a way. What would be your organisation's biggest fear? Let's see, letting our customers down, definitely. Our customers would say that we are like a good friend to them. And if your organisation was a character, who would it be? Let's go with Yoda. And what differentiates our organisation from others is our values. and our leaders believe we are believe in the importance of relationships. So what's great is you answer those questions and then it gives you the result of which archetype is yours. So this one now is the hero. So it tells you the motto: where there's a will, there's a way. Hero brands heighten the achievements of those around them by being competent and courageous. They encourage people to triumph over adversity and fight for what's right. So it goes into the qualities, you know, what the brands are and examples. So it's a really cool fast track tool that you can, I'll just pop back to the presentation. Oops, sorry about that one. So that's that one. So you can look up on the presentation what we just went through. And so, sorry, just one moment. Okay, so now we're going to do the 4 dimensions of tone of voice. So basically this is our last one. And tone of voice is not what you say, but how you say it. So the marketing phrase of tone of voice really refers to, you know, the written rather than the spoken word. So your brand's tone of voice should always inform your written language, so such as your website or your social media messages, emails, advertising, your packaging, etc. So it's much easier to use once you've defined your brand archetype. So for example, if you had the hero or you had the joker, some of that work that we just went through will help you with the tone of voice for your brand. So basically, just go into here. So there was a Nielsen-Norman group that conducted research that determined the broader qualities for the tone of voice. And I'm really pleased that they did that because I think it would be really complex to really define from scratch what you know, your brand's tone of voice should be. So when they did this research, they actually, at the end of the process, identified 4 primary tone of voices. So they've got 2 ends of the spectrum. So I'm just going to run through each of those, and you actually pick one of the 2 selections for each of these 4 dimensions. So the first one here you can see is, you know, is your tone of voice formal or is it casual? So formal, for example, gives a sense of professionalism and authority, whereas casual gives a feeling of, you know, personality and friendliness. So you'd pick formal or casual. For the second one, you pick between funny or serious. So funny can definitely result in higher recall and more social shares, whereas serious is really going to give your customers a sense of credibility and trust. The third dimension is respectful tone versus irreverent tone. So respectful is really about friendliness and cordiality, whereas irreverence is more a sense of, you know, confident knowledge, supremacy over your competitors. And then the fourth dimension is an enthusiastic tone versus matter of fact. So obviously enthusiasm is about driving, you know, friendliness and willingness to help, versus matter of fact, which is a lot more about, you know, honesty and simplicity. So as for all the other 6 fundamentals of brand, I'm going to share with you a fast track for our tone of voice. And again, I've got a really fun tool here. So this is from Portent, and I discovered it, and it's a lot more basic than the brand archetypes tool, but I really like their summary. It sort of gives you a lot more direction for your brand in terms of tone of voice. Oops. Sorry, we'll just pop back here. Just going to get started on this one. Okay. So we pick one or the other. So funny or serious. So, you know, do we like to have fun, play around, have a joke? Are we trying to relate to our audience in a light-hearted way? Or is our subject matter in depth, technical and dense? So let's go with funny. You know, does your choice of language lean towards the mature and traditional? Does your audience have advanced reading levels? So are we more formal or are we more casual and we want to befriend our readers? So let's go with casual. Are we striving for appropriate gravity and looking to demonstrate admiration for our subject matter? So are we more respectful or are we irreverent and have more of a flippant approach and a bit more tongue-in-cheek? So let's go with irreverent. And then the final one, enthusiastic or matter of fact. So, you know, do we want our passion to show or are we trying to generate excitement or are we more matter of fact? So let's go with enthusiastic. So basically, in this instance, our brand personality is flippant. So you are the lovable grump who uses sarcasm to prove your point, be candid about your point of view and use strong language to share it. Build credibility with your audience by letting them know you're on their side. So I love this because they give you an example of an email and newsletter opening line. Look, I wrote this thing for you. The least you can do is read it, which is quite cute. Not only that, the 4 factors of your choice. So they go through funny, casual, irreverent, and enthusiastic, and they give you a lot more detail, talk about the context, etc. So again, just a fun tool. Which just helps you fast track that process and sort of gives you a bit of solutions around how to define your tone of voice. So finally, from today, so at the beginning of the session, I said to note down all of those 7, factors, what you would like to work on. So if, Uma, are you able to pop up the poll for this question?
Yeah, absolutely. Just give me a second. I'm just getting that.
So basically what we want to ask is, of the following, which of these do you feel that you could do some further work on based on what you've learned from today? And the reason we're asking this question is because it really helps us, Shopmatic, better understand their customers on this journey and how we can better support you on each of these points for your brand. So Uma's just popped that up. So I'll give you a couple of minutes, select as many as you'd like.
All right, I can see that people are starting to answer that. So great. We'll just give it a little bit more time, even as the results are rolling in. Great, Claudia. So I think it was quite extensive presentation that you put together on the whole brand thing. I think you're all starting to get some Q&As coming through. So I'm just going to inform everyone that you can put in your queries to Claudia in the Q&A section, and we will have a quick discussion with her so she can actually address each of the queries specific to your business or what you're struggling with, anything at all. So just please raise them here in the Q&A. And yeah, just waiting for more people to answer. I can see that there's still about 4 or 5 people who have not answered this. Do give it a little bit of thought. We will have this poll open for a while. Yeah, there is no right or wrong answer really, right? So for these things, it's just a matter of you introspecting a little bit and trying to think of, what are the 3 things that you really want to work on now that you've gone through this presentation, this webinar, that you think that you can sort of like improve upon really, right? And then we will look at how we can help you on that journey going forward with Claudia's support after the webinar. We seem to be having some, actually no real clear winners, right? So this time I'm seeing that there is company core values, but 60% have chosen that. And almost equally, mission statement, USP, target audiences, brand archetype, tone of voice. There's a selection of that by 40% of the people. And vision statement is the one which has got the least poll, like votes this time. So it looks like that's something everyone is reasonably clear with already with respect to the business as to what is the vision statement. But company core values, a little bit of introspecting seems to be there. Okay, so I'm going to keep this open for just 10 more seconds only. So I'll request whoever has not responded yet to please give us a response. It will be very insightful to know. And then also, like I said, we will definitely be looking at how we can actually support you with that. So for those who haven't responded, please do respond. And we'll be closing the poll now. Yeah. All right. I'll share this with you later, Claudia. Okay.
Thank you, Emma.
Yeah.
So would you like me, Emma, to just pop into, I can see a question here from Sasha.
Yeah, let's do that. Yep.
Okay, great. So Sasha has asked, being a solopreneur, artist and new to small business, how to market her brand effectively on social media platforms like Instagram. So Sasha, what I would recommend is, first of all, your first step, having branding, your branding for growth set up properly. So your vision statement really clear, your mission statement, your values, your USP, your target audiences, brand archetypes, etc. From there, the most important thing for small businesses in social is to have a framework and to understand what the objective of utilising that platform is. So if you find at the moment that you're basically just doing random posts so that you're there all the time, that won't get you the growth on social organic. It's very hard to get growth on organic these days. However, if you have your target audiences really clear, your values, and then your USP, so why you're really different, using them as part of your framework for posting on social and having objectives for those. So for example, if you have 3 different target audiences, think about how do you talk to each of those audiences through your posts, so that rather than if you're in say a health or beauty area and you have women from the ages of 18 to 60 that purchase your product, if you actually chop them down into more relevant niche groups, so you might have millennials and they use a product in a different way, you might have aging skincare, etc. If you actually use your content that targets those niche audiences in a more structured way, as well as understand the values of each of those, how you apply your values to each of those markets, you're starting to approach your social with more of a strategic approach. So it's really stepping back and defining everything that we've been through today, and then going, how do I apply that in a way that's going to achieve my objectives in social? And if you actually do visit my webinar from December, I talk about structure for social organic content in terms of platform purpose, visual design, target audiences, content clusters and content themes, and how having a structure is really important. The last tip that I would give you is don't post for the sake of it. Decide what your ability to post on organic is. So if that is once a week, because you're really busy being a solopreneur and running your business, once a week is completely fine. Quality is better than quantity. Algorithms respond to consistency, not posting every day, just random stuff. So take a breath, step back, think about what your brand is about. How do you want to communicate to those niche audiences? And have a look at my previous webinar, and you'll get some real a bit of a deeper dive on social organic content. So I hope that helps. Okay.
There's some add-on questions. You want to take them? Yep.
Oh yeah. Okay. So is it a good idea to add a blog describing these points? Look, the thing with these points is it's not about being out there and saying to your audience, this is our vision statement, this is our mission statement, these are our values. It's you having real clarity around the that space that you own and what you stand for, and your branding needs to communicate that without having it written somewhere. So in your visuals, in your language, all of that, your tone of voice even. So are you really caring, or are you more direct because you're talking about an important topic? Your communication needs to emulate these things, as opposed to sort of whacking them up on a wall for people to read, because people absorb the values of your brand, your vision, what you're about through your communication, not because you've stuck it on your website. So I would, once you've spent some time documenting all of these, then it's standing back and going, well, for example, if I one of my values is eco sustainability, supporting the planet, where am I doing that in my business? Am I doing that in terms of giving back to a charity? Am I doing that in my business through my social communication? So you want to think about the application of these in your communication, as opposed to just writing them and expecting that people are just going to go, oh, you've got it written, so therefore it must be true. I hope that helps with that question. Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, well, we're just waiting for people to sort of like pick up their questions. I have a couple of things that I wanted to ask you, Claudia, on this. So one of the things when we hear customers, and because, small businesses could be across so many different categories, right? So we have business owners who are in education, or who are in the fashion side of things, or my question really is a business category or product category dictate tone of voice that you have to sort of like assume, or is it possible that like a business which is operating in what is considered as a little bit more not be sort of like be clustered into a particular tone of voice only because they're in a particular category? Is it possible for to be differentiating themselves? Just a query on that.
Absolutely. It really comes down to, if you're a traditional business that's trying to disrupt a space, then and get to new audiences, then having a sense of humor or being irreverent, and that's what your audience is going to connect with, then absolutely, like, don't feel that you have to just stick in because we're in education, we have to be this and we have to be that. If you're dealing with education in a youth market, for example, they're going to be able to connect more potentially with a different tone of voice and a different archetype. But again, just depends on what your philosophies are, what your mission is, what you're trying to achieve, and don't be scared to push those boundaries if you are trying to disrupt a particular place.
Okay, all right. So that sort of leads me to another question, which I think a lot of our viewers might be, thinking of, perhaps because they've probably already started on a particular journey for their brand, right? Yes. And over time, they might want to shift the direction a bit. And is that okay to do it? And how does one go about doing that shift in a in a successful way?
Yeah. So point one, in digital, things change so quickly, and we, as small businesses, we actually need to pivot at times to let our brand grow where the market is, where the interest is. What I would say is that you don't want to chop and change where people go, oh my God, you were this and now you're this. But just as people change and grow, just taking that time and evolving, that change is absolutely acceptable, and what brands do. So if it means you're slowly changing your colors or your fonts to represent the archetype that you might be moving towards, it's just doing that gradually, rather than going, today we're black and tomorrow we're white, or whatever what it is that you want to change. So what I would say is that you don't want to be changing that every day of the week, because people are going to connect with your personality and who your brand is. But don't be afraid to pivot and evolve if you find that that's where your audience is, and that you're evolving as a brand.
Right. Okay. There's another question here. Can we have access to this deck? It was a great format. Thank you so much. Claudia, all credit to you. But yes, we will be, we have recorded the session. It will be available on our YouTube channel, and it will be sent across to you via email in a few days' time. So yes, you will have access to this particular session, so you can benefit from it on an ongoing basis and review, sort of refer back to it. Claudia was also mentioning about her previous session, which was the webinar was on the framework of for growth success, the overall sort of e-commerce success. That recording incidentally was emailed to several of you earlier in the invitation mails to this particular webinar. So do go back and whenever you have the chance to take a look at it. I have a third question, actually, if I may, on this. My question was, once again, when we talk brands, a lot of our customers want to, or think of brands largely as the visual element of it. The logo is a brand, right? So I want to help our customers understand how deep is the correlation between the visual and the brand, and how important it is.
Yeah. I think if you think of your brand as a person that has an external visual, how they speak, how they dress, how they think, how they feel, that's pretty much what a brand is. And so if you want to, dress up in a particular outfit that doesn't really match the personality of that person, there's a huge disconnect, and that's going to be challenging for consumers to connect with over the longer term in an authentic way. Look, many moons ago, brand was visual. It just didn't matter as much as it does today, because of the social awareness and consciousness of consumers. It's getting more and more important that it all needs to be coherent as one person. How they talk, how they look, how they feel. So, even just right down to a brand, the colors that you pick. I mean, what does red mean? What does green mean? What does blue mean? I mean, colors all have different connections and emotions for humans. And if you imagine setting up a relaxation spa and using the colors red and black, like they're not coherent. So those are things that really need to be thought through, rather than just doing something pretty that you think you like. Why do you like it? Why are your consumers going to like it? Why are they going to connect with it? What is the rationale behind those choices? Because ultimately those are the things that people are going to connect with.
Right. Okay, that's great. Thank you for that. All right.
I just want to say quickly, thank you so much for the person that asked for the deck. I'm really love the feedback. Thank you that you said it was a great format. Sasha, also thank you to you, saying that the information was helpful and informative. So I really do urge you, if you found value today, please revisit the recording and give your business some time and some investment. It will absolutely be worth it in terms of your future growth and consumers really connecting with the heart and soul of your business.
Great. Thank you once again, Claudia. I'm just going to quickly pull out another poll, and this is to allow our participants to share with us what are the future topics that we can actually bring for them in the Shopmatic Masterclasses. When we will be bringing Claudia again to our future masterclasses, I'll be happy to say that, with more of her wonderful content. You can also access her content on her website, which is withsmallbusiness.com. Am I right?
Yeah, that's right. Correct.
Yes. Okay. So do visit her website. It's called withsmallbusiness.com, all clubbed together. And she has more of this great content available on this, on the entire framework for e-commerce, etc. Wonderful 8 modules, etc. And we are also working very closely with Claudia to bring more of her content in the form of webinars and other pieces in the future. And we will look forward to you sort of like engaging with us to consume them and grow your business in e-commerce. So if you have not already subscribed to the YouTube channel of Shopmatic, we strongly encourage you to do that. You will have access to all of our content, of the past, as well as on an ongoing basis for easy reference, and for you to sort of like continually refer to when you want to access that content. Also, keep a watch out for our Facebook page, Instagram pages, as well as LinkedIn, for you to have access to the regular events that we bring across, as well as great content that we keep on a continual basis bringing for you. All right, so we've got some answers coming in for the poll. Thank you so much. Whoever hasn't responded, please do let us know what are the topics you'd like to bring in the future. Once again, Claudia, thank you so much for the great session that you ran for us. We really look forward to having you over again very soon.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for hosting me.
All right. Thank you for everyone who's exiting. There's also an exit webinar poll, where you can give us feedback on this particular session, and we'll be very happy to feed that back with Claudia as well. And well, for those of you who are ready to go, thank you for joining, and stay safe and stay healthy.
Thanks, Emma. Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.